Welcome to the afternoon session. My name is Cal Jamasi. I'm on the product management team for TRIRIGA, and I have a couple of presenters here with me. Rong, who's one of our IT architects for TRIRIGA out of IBM's CIO office, and Eva Rodak, who's a business analyst from Newmark, one of our partners. So all three of us will be speaking to you today. So this is going to be an update session from one that we did last year. Last year we introduced the digital transformation effort that's going on inside of IBM Global Real Estate. IBM is a big, complex company, and we're doing, we do all the same stuff that you guys do. We manage offices, we manage manufacturing, we manage a whole bunch of things. And we have a large global real estate team that does that. We've been undergoing a digital transformation for the last couple of years. We introduced our progress to date last year, and now this is a follow-up session with more of what we've deployed and some specific examples and some of the value that we've seen out of that deployment already. So IBM's purpose typically is we want to be a catalyst that makes the world work better, and we try to demonstrate that from in sustainability. You see it in our presence in the marketplace and in our leadership there, and we also want to know and show that the solutions that we sell we're also using in our own business, and we're not just trying to sell things to people that we're not also doing to ourselves and helping us to function better. We face a lot of challenges. IBM has pretty complex operations. Did it stop working? No? Still working? Okay. We have pretty complex operations. We have a lot of office space. We've got a lot of we do manufacturing. We do research and development. We sell software, consulting, hardware, financing. We do all sorts of things. So we have pretty complex operations that have different needs. We've been leading in ESG and sustainability for a long time. We expect that both the SEC and the European Union will continue to have tighter and tighter ESG reporting requirements for large companies and for all sorts of companies. So we're anticipating that and getting ready for that already. And we've got a lot of legacy infrastructure. IBM is over a 100-year-old company. It's been more than 10 years now since we celebrated our centennial, I think. So IBM's been around for a long time, and everything is not brand new at IBM because we've been around for a long time. Some of the other challenges we face, we've got a highly varied occupancy requirements. We've got manufacturing where people have to be coming in, and even during the pandemic, had to come in and continue to make what they make. We have researchers who need access to the labs that they need to, but we also have a bunch of mobile employees who are in consulting and in sales and in software development who could have worked remotely and did so. So we have a big, different, diverse group of people that have different needs. We've targeted sustainability improvement. IBM has been leaders in that space for 30, 40 years, 50 years actually. We've been putting out annual corporate reporting on our sustainability since 1990. And our impact report now is our #2 most important report after our financial reporting. We publish that every year. You can Google it. It's available online. We also have a lot of M&A activity, so our global real estate has to deal with all the spin-offs and divestitures that we do. In the last 5 years, IBM made 23 acquisitions with companies headquartered in 10 different countries. Some of them have been relatively small acquisitions that are easy to absorb, but some of them have been multi-billion-dollar acquisitions that have facilities that come in with them, people, assets, and all sorts of things. So our global real estate team has to respond to that. Just a few years ago, in the height of the pandemic, we also spun off our global technology services and turned it into an $18 billion company called Kyndryl that is now a separate company. So that was a very complex exercise of dividing up property and even floors of a building, data centers, and transferring all those properly. And then, of course, unexpected business events that come along. The pandemic was a challenge for everybody I know, And IBM's won some awards in how it handled the pandemic response in our own facilities and in bringing people back into the workplace. So our global real estate looks something like this. This is a bit of a synopsis. We've got about 600 locations now. Balanced portfolio between owned and leased properties. We have both, about 50 million square feet in over 120 countries. As I was saying, it's pretty diverse. Only 50% of it is office space. You think IBM is just a bunch of offices, but it's not. 50% of it is. 50% of it is a whole bunch of other things. Cloud data centers, research and development, labs, some pretty complex labs with complex equipment in them, and production and manufacturing. We continue to make mainframe equipment, the quantum equipment for quantum computing. And we also have things that you wouldn't expect IBM might have. Wastewater treatment, backup generators, all of those things are all part of the portfolio that IBM Global Real Estate deals with. We've got over 300,000 IBMers, contractors, and clients, and about 5,000 people in global real estate spread around the world to administer all of that. As I said, this is the second part of this presentation that we started last year. This has been a 2-year journey, and it's continuing. This is not the end of it, the end story. You'll see in a moment that we still have quite a bit to deploy. But we wanted to, when we went about this, we were frustrated with the systems that we had put in place, and you'll get a picture of what that looked like in a moment. But we wanted to show that, we wanted to create industry-leading real estate enterprise and have it be focused on our hybrid cloud and AI technology. We wanted to transform IBM's platform for consulting, software, and AI capabilities. We wanted to show that our solutions work. We also had to operationalize all of our ESG activity. As I said, since 1990, we've been putting out ESG reporting and impact report, and that's not an automatic exercise. That was a highly difficult exercise that we wanted to use our tools to automate a little bit better than we had before. And then we wanted to use also our analytics platforms and AI, our data platforms for analysis. So wanted this to be, we call global real estate Client Zero, which is, we want it to be our showcase for how our tools work in a large, complex enterprise. Looks kind of like this. Up at 12 o'clock, you see TRIRIGA Application Suite. TRIRIGA is the centerpiece of all this, and you'll see once we get into the modules that have been deployed, you'll see that TRIRIGA is the farthest along. We wanted to seamlessly be able to put in add-ons and quickly provide additional capabilities as needed. We wanted to plan and respond for disruptive environmental business events to ensure business continuity. About 55% of enterprises experience some kind of business continuity failure that affects their facilities, and they have to be able to, responsiveness becomes the most important thing once you've had a business continuity failure and a part of a facility or an entire facility has to be shut down. Wanted quicker time to value through some pre-built connectors, and then we're also using our Maximo application suite for asset management, remote monitoring, maintenance. Some of our outsourced FM providers are already on Maximo, so we wanted to make it as seamless and easy for them, and then make sure that we have the integrations between these suites to seamlessly add value. So this is what the landscape looks like, the technology landscape looks like. We showed this picture last year, so this one's not a new one. The left side is what our legacy software stack looked like. That was difficult to work with, difficult to access information. This is what happens when you have fragmented systems across what should be an integrated workplace management solution. If you're trying to count rapidly, there's 44 different applications there, so quite a bit. And some of them were for highly specialized uses in different geos, so difficult to deal with. We used TRIRIGA and Maximo in the legacy architecture, but we didn't use them very well. We didn't do when we had deployed them, we deployed them in a more limited way, so we weren't getting the benefit of what these pieces of software could really do for us. So in 2023, about 20% of this was retired. Another 30% is being retired this year, and then more the following year until all of this is out and everything looks like what the right side looks like. And we've built this on TRIRIGA, Maximo, and Visi. Those are the core pieces. We have some other we have some other pieces that had related to building management systems and such that that had to remain. All of this is being executed by our IBM Consulting and some other partners. That's why he was here, or Eva's here, sorry. And we wanted to be able to accelerate, co-create, and then also engage with things like IoT devices and build that into the environment to be able to get as much automation and efficiency as possible. So let's start with Maximo. Here's what has been deployed so far. Manage, Mobile, and Assist are the three pieces that are live as part of Maximo now. And you can see there's still quite a bit of Maximo to go that we have on our roadmap through the rest of 2024 and into 2025. We want to bring monitor and the visual inspection schedule, the reliability strategies that you heard introduced last year and has been becoming a bigger part of the Maximo portfolio, as well as health and predict for some of the assets, particularly in manufacturing and data centers and in some of our research facilities. So there's still a fair amount of Maximo to go, but that's okay. One of the early areas of benefit for Maximo has been around Maximo Mobile. Technicians had to transcribe service orders from printouts into a system. Obviously, that's a very wasteful exercise in order to be able to do access work orders, track time, add various comments directly into the different fields. All of that was a manual exercise, and that has now become much more automated. So we have about 300 plus technicians that are using Maximo Mobile. We estimate that they spend about an hour per day transcribing some of the work order data outs from printouts. Multiply that out to 52 weeks per year, and you've got about a 12% time savings per technician, times the 300, obviously. So we're seeing some early benefit from the Maximo that we've deployed so far. Let's move to TRIRIGA. TRIRIGA is much further along, and you can see that started back in 2022. This redeployments with lease accounting, and you can see the modules along the way, or the components and capabilities along the way. In the past, since then we've done space, workplace reservations, reserve. Every IBMer can go into any IBM facility, and right on our internal intranet site is called W3. We can there's a reserve button right there, and you can pretty quickly hone in on the building that you're in and find reservable space for workspaces or meeting spaces. So any IBMer can do that anywhere that they go. Lease transactions, lease management, facility projects is the latest that we've unveiled, and then capital planning and capital projects is still happening later on this year. So we'll have most of TRIRIGA deployed by the end of this year, we expect. Couple of benefits here that we've identified so far. One is the approvals process. You can imagine at a place like IBM, approvals can be difficult, and you've got multiple layers of it, and it can be both time-consuming, and you're missing some opportunity cost in approvals that take too long. We've reduced that quite a bit by about 75%, the man hours required for duplicate approvals, and the cycle time between the request and the release of funds, which had been a high source of frustration, reduced that by about 50%. So that's applied so far to about a little more than 200 projects. About 18 people on average had to approve projects. Took about 60 minutes of review average time to review and approve. So that's about a 20% time savings per person per year in duplicating and reconciling approvals. So this is a good example of the type of simplification that we've been able to do. The second one for TRIRIGA so far is around lease transactions. And we've been able to automate several items in the lease transaction module. So far we've implemented small lease renewals and sustainability clauses. That's been an important one for us, the clip levels for that. And then we still have a few others in progress. So we have about 100 users for transactions management for leases. About 300 transactions per year, and we've reduced the cycle time about 25% for small lease renewals and 20% for sustainability reviews. So this is some early benefits that we've seen so far in what we've deployed, and we continue to track more benefits. So let me hand it off to Rung. And what we're going to do is take a deeper dive into some of the space allocation optimization that has been done.
Thank you, Cal. Okay. I am Rong. I'm a TRIRIGA technical architect from IBM, and I'm here with Eva. She's a business analyst from Newmark team. So the change we're going to present is facilitated by our strategy and planning leader, Audrey Buck. She couldn't make it, so since I'm from IBM, I am wearing double hats and speaking for the business. So I wanted to clarify that because a lot of you here know me as the tech lead. I have not switched over to the business side. I'm just speaking for them. Okay. So space management is actually the second module we implemented for IBM. We had an old instance from, I think we started 2013, but 2015 is really when we went live. So the first one we implemented was portfolio management, and then followed by space management. So we've actually been managing spaces and allocations in TRIRIGA for almost 10 years. So allocations should always reflect who needed the space. And TRIRIGA has chargeback and occupancy allocations. And for the last decade, we've been using chargeback allocations. We do not track person to seat occupancy allocations. At IBM, the seats, like people's primary location, are tracked on the building level. We don't really track space level. So, okay, so the spaces are managed. We have a big team that manage IBM's global space data. And we have about 100 space planners globally. That may sound like a lot, but if you, so the data is verified and updated monthly due to moves and projects and etc. Let me see the next slide. Okay, so here we are. I don't know if you can see the screenshots, but that's the out-of-box space allocation tab. It's on the space record. Right? It's a space planner's regular day. They log in to TRIRIGA. They find a space, they revise the space, they update the chargeback allocations percentage, or they add new departments, update the departments, they save and activate the space record, or if they have a lot of spaces under the same floor to update to the same value, they can use a utility called Space Manager. Right? It's a process form. They can use Space Manager to bulk update spaces and allocations. So it all sounds fine. It's pretty straightforward until you look at IBM's portfolio. Right? We have almost about 700 locations. I know Cal had 600 plus earlier, so here we say 700, just almost 700. Okay? And over 300,000 spaces, which adds up to about 500,000 chargeback allocations. To maintain the data quality, a lot of rules are involved, and it's a very time-consuming process to maintain the data quality. Right, every Monday, so we have space planners globally. They would log in Monday. They run their data quality reports, which, by the way, we have over 10. And imagine 100 people may not be running it at the same time, but still, on Monday, run the reports, causing system performance issues. So that's the pain I feel. A lot of people are going to reach out to me like, it's super slow, the report is not running, I cannot export anything, right? So that is because you have 500,000 records, and then your report is written with a lot of associated objects. It's just very slow. It's a pain, basically. And not only the space team that are suffering from the vast amount of data, our finance team, our controller and financial analysts, they have to look at the same set of data and run their cost recovery, the overhead recovery based on that. Right, so oftentimes, our users are faced with a dilemma. They have to either update as much as they can with the time they have, which means the data is never current, right? Or they have to focus on bigger data issue with the time they have. So we started to ask ourselves, is there a different way to update and maintain allocations so less records are touched? So we looked at our space breakdowns and identified that about half of our spaces are specialty spaces, where the other half are just common office spaces. So if we can manage space, if we can assign the allocations on the floor level as extensively as possible, we could potentially reduce our allocation data by 68%. But how can we do that in TRIRIGA? And with that in mind, I'm going to hand it over to Eva.
Yeah, thank you, Rong. Is my mic working? It does, right? Okay, so not this way. Okay, so as Rong already mentioned, there was a need to change the existing process in order to reduce amount of work, usually very unnecessary, and this way free up some time to improve data quality, but also to just have time for other space-related activity. And let's look, how did we approach it? So let's imagine an IBM office. The office can be split in usually two types of spaces, a specialty space and a common space. So a specialty space is usually very closely related to a specific business mission, and it's usually delivered by one or two teams. And as an example, we can think of a research lab. The link between space cost, and a team working from this location is very close. And this is why it's still important to collect data on the lowest level of location hierarchy, which is the space, to be able to say, this space is occupied by this and this team, so this and this team has to cover the cost of that. And this can be done by using chargeback allocation. On the other hand, there is a common space. And here, as an example, it can be a shared open space, it can be a meeting space. In general, it's the entire area that can be accessed by all teams working from the particular location. And so the cost is split between a lot of these teams. And let's take an example. Let's imagine a floor where you have an open space and 10 meeting spaces. In TRIRIGA, this would be divided into, as an example, 20 spaces. And think of the old process where the data was collected on a space level. So in such a case, the space planner would have to input the same data 20 times, creating a lot of records. It also sounds like a lot of work, a lot of effort, and usually when you have a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of records, it's possible to create a lot of data errors as well, right? So this is a bad side of the process, but on the other hand, here exactly we saw the opportunity to improve it, and improve it by collecting the data on a higher level of location hierarchy, which would be a floor using area overlay. And let's move to the functionalities in TRIRIGA and what did we configure in order to be able to use these two functionalities at the same time. So if it comes to the specialty space, I clicked too early because you may already guess what it means. So if it comes to specialty space and chargeback allocation, we changed nothing. So this is an existing process. The space planners know it very well. They know the functionality, which works well, by the way. So there was no need to touch it. What we focused on was area overlay. So we configured it in a way that these two functionalities are compatible with each other and can speak to each other. And how did we do it? So as a first step, we evaluated out-of-the-box functionality. And we did that to check if it works similarly to chargeback allocation, and so if it makes sense to use it at the same time. And here's what we saw. So to have a complete data set, a space planner has to go to a floor allocations, and they have to input, first of all, organization charged. Then they have to input manually area square footage. And then add a percentage allocated for each organization. So basically, this works similarly to chargeback allocation, and the same data is in there. So after using this functionality in several locations, we're able to say what works as we would like it to work and what doesn't. And with this experience, we're able to identify 3 areas of focus, like 3 goals that we would like to achieve in order to improve this experience. And these goals were: simplify inputs, improve data quality, and minimize impact to downstream users and processes. And let's reveal what we did to achieve them. So the first change was related to simplifying inputs. And we did that by removing any fields that required manual data entry, and any fields that simply was not needed. We didn't need to feed the process. And remember, in out-of-the-box functionality, I mentioned manual entry of area square footage. Sorry. So we removed this field because the data is already contained in space child records. So there was no need to add it in here, especially having in mind that in the same floor, some spaces may be managed by chargeback allocation. So in such a case, a space planner would have to first calculate the area and input it in here. And our goal is to minimize work, not to add more. Okay, so we removed the field. Wonderful. But how do we know to which spaces, to which area the area overlay applies to? So we approached it in a way that we implemented a rule to divide the spaces between chargeback allocation and between area overlay. And the rule is very simple. So all spaces that have active chargeback allocations, they're managed by chargeback allocation. And all those that don't have it, they fall under area overlay. And with this rule in place, we're able to address a few potential issues. Like the one of them would be a potential of double counting. So imagine if a space was calculated once under chargeback allocation and once under area overlay. I guess no one would like it to pay twice, let's say. So with this rule in place, it was possible to avoid it. Second issue that this rule solved for us was changing role of a space. So imagine a research lab that becomes a meeting space. To manage this change in TRIRIGA from the point of view of allocations, it's enough to remove chargeback allocation, and the space will automatically be calculated correctly under area overlay. So what's more, to improve transparency, we implemented a query on the floor allocation level to show the list of all spaces that are included in area overlay, and a second query that shows the list of spaces that are not included in area overlay, so that it's clear for all users. So the second thing we focused on was improving data quality. And we did that by addressing the behavior on a reset of area overlay. So out-of-the-box behavior is to reset the percentage allocated on each allocation edit, on each area overlay edit. And it's reset in a way that all organizations charged have an even share. So as long as this behavior is helpful on the initial creation of area overlay, it makes some issues when, for example, only one record has to be edited. In such a way, the space planner would have to first memorize all percentages, then update all records in area overlay, and again, this would be creating additional work that no one wants, I guess. So by keeping what's already there, the space planner has to only focus on those records that really need to be changed. And what's more, the new organizations charged that are input in area overlay, they have a default value set to 0, so that it's easy to notice which records have to be touched. Another thing we implemented to improve data quality was adding a error data check. So the check is, like the rule is to check if the percentage allocated in area overlay sums up to 100%. And each time the percentage allocated sums up to a value that is either higher or lower than 100%, the attention message will pop up, and the space planner will know that something is wrong, something needs to be changed. And the last thing that we had to address in order to let the new process begin was related to minimizing impact. So we knew that finance team is using allocation data in order to fit their processes, in order to do overhead recovery, billing processes. They also use this data for feeding dashboards. And it was very important for us that we minimize impact, that the impact is as low as possible for them. And to do that, first we evaluated the report that they were using from chargeback allocation. And based on that, we built a report from area overlay that has exactly the same fields. So it has exactly the same fields. It means that some values have to be calculated. In some cases, the values have to be grouped by. But the end result is that it's very simple to merge these two reports together in order to fit the existing process on the finance side, and also to let finance use the same tools as they used to. So this was the last change we had to implement for the new process. And with this, I will hand it over to Rong, who will wrap things up for us.
Thank you, Eva. And thanks for the detailed walkthrough of the area overlay process. So we are successful in that design. So I'll call it for the business. Successful in that design because we focused on the end user who actually manages the data or consumes the data. So we provided them an alternative to manage half of the spaces, half of the portfolios with less time, less workload, less records to update, and less data errors. So oftentimes, you introduce business a new process, there's pushbacks because they have an existing process. It might be slow, It might, they're frustrated of the performance, but it's reliable. They can count on it. It's a process they've been following. They don't want to change it. So when we introduce this area overlay functionality, we're not taking away the original, as shipped space chargeback allocations process. They can continue to use that to manage the specialty spaces, and they can decide how many floors they start using the area overlay, because it's also not going to introduce errors. By using, you are rolling out one location with area overlay, it doesn't mean this location going to suddenly have errors, right? Something's going to break. It's not going to break. They can slowly adapt to it and see that it is benefiting them. It's reducing their workload. It's making their data, reducing their data, and the reports run faster, and the downstream applications are not affected. To sum everything up, transformation is a journey. So there's no shortcut to success. So you will have processes that doesn't work out, that you think you have a good design, but it just doesn't work out. So our effort to enhance productivity and cut cost has showing positive results and across various departments. And we've developed an MVP process that not only addresses data issue, but also minimize interruption to downstream applications, processes, and users. And the MVP process that we've established is being replicated with other functions that we've been rolling out with TRIRIGA and other processes throughout our transformation journey. And thank you all for your attention and engagement. And three of us here are ready to answer any questions that you might have.
So at this time, we'll turn the session over to you for questions. To ask a question, please raise your hand, and I'll bring the microphone over. We want to capture the question on the microphone so that you are on the recording.
Just a quick question. When you did an overlay, right, did you integrate with CAD floor plans? And if you did, what was the standardization or the SOP you did?
Yeah.
If not, then did you have any pushback from the space planner that not be able to see the visualization of their floors?
Yeah, so for now, this is an MVP process, and is it turned on? I tried to turn it on, yeah. So this is an MVP process where we created initial changes in TRIRIGA in order to be able to kick it off. However, it doesn't mean that everything is addressed, and this was a very good question about the CAD drawings and the reports.
Yes.
So this for now is not addressed.
Mm-hmm. But we did get that question from the business. You're right, they're concerned.
Yeah.
Yes, we are in the process of evaluating, developing more reports to support that, to address their concerns. But thank you.
So just out of curiosity, as new requirements are being identified by IBM as part of your client zero journey, how are those making their way into the base product?
I'm glad you asked this question. Thank you. We work very closely with the product team. So we have a lot of the processes. Before we make the change, we would talk to the product team. We clarify, simplify, generalizing our process. If they like it, we are developing it as the try objects. So with the intent of feeding it back to the base product. So.
We have a direct, we have somebody from the product management team assigned to IBM Global Real Estate to be a liaison and to help them with things that they need help with, of course, but also to bring these kinds of ideas back from things that they're discovering as part of their journey. So that there's a two-way there that is very active. One of our distinguished engineers that had been in IBM sustainability software is now working for Global Real Estate, GRE is what we say. And so he's also has a direct pipeline to us as he's helping them with their transformation and bringing things back to the product team.
Yes.
Any other questions?
For space chargeback, looks like you're not looking at the room level, but you presented this overall area with common and specialty space. Do you track the attributes of room, like room type, office, workstation, or room standard anywhere in the tool, or for you this is not important information?
So we do categorize our spaces. So we use the out-of-box functionality of the space class. We categorize spaces in close collaboration, shared collaboration, and we actually also, of recent changes of, COVID and now people coming back, they wanted more open space, more shared. So it's all being reflected. So that's part of our space planner's job. They're also updating spaces to the current code, right? Spaces have been updated too, physically too, like removing walls, changing CAD drawings. So it's all being updated. And we also have reservations in TRIRIGA. Like we are using that. It's open to all IBM, 300,000 users. So CAD drawings are kept very up to date for us. Yes. And we do report on the space classes. Yeah. One of our data quality reports is that. Yeah. Thank you.
How is the area overlay calculating floor common and building common spaces, or is that not a consideration for IBM at the moment?
Floor common and building common.
Yes,
You're,
broke out by building allocation or floor allocation. Yeah, based on what?
BOMA standards. Okay, so I'll try to answer this question because business probably knows better how they used it, but I've seen their data, not all high levelly, but so the BOMA standards and the space class, it's on the space class, so it's defined on the space level, right? Even if it's a building common, the space class itself is still attached to the space, right? So when we do the aerial overlay, the building common, floor common, they can all be put under that floor area overlay. Like you do not have to differentiate them. So it's a big bucket of common spaces that can change, right? You can have more spaces, you decided, oh, I need more dedicated office room, just take it away and then put it under space chargeback allocation, and then it disappears from the area overlay calculation, right? So it's just with Newmark's design, it just happens automatically. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, my not serious question is, can I get one of those IBM data engineers on my team so I can give them feedback on what they need to fix? I'm just teasing. No, serious question though. Your area that you have your common space allocated to the, I'm assuming the different groups or different departments that are in the building, correct?
Mm-hmm, yes.
So as departments grow or shrink or move out or whatnot, do you still have to go back in and manually recalculate all that? And if so, how often do you do that? Are you finding?
Exactly. So yes, we do that. You're talking about our reorg process, yes, right? And it's a big process. So every time that happens, we have utility. You have to look at, you have to look at what are my current organizations, our departments. Sometimes their name changes. Sometimes they you move to a different division, right? You need to make sure the location move with it, right? Sometimes you have to retire locations, reassign it to the new ones, and, or the allocation, like association itself, I'm talking technical, is there, but the name is not reflected. You have to refresh the data. So when you run reports, you don't see outdated data. Right? How often does that happen? Like the company-wide reorg doesn't happen that often, but I remember running it twice the last 2 years. Yes. So yeah, it does happen. And then, like the allocation, how many spaces are allocated to, Department A, Department B. These are negotiated sometimes like before you even sign a lease, right? You talk to your department, how do you plan on use this space? So they agree on the percentage they're using, and when it do the overhead recovery, calculate the chargebacks. It's just based on that understanding. That's why having it on the area overlay level makes sense, because you're not really tracking individual seating anyways. Why do you up touching every single space for the same percentage that you already agreed on, right? So that saves a lot of data entry and the number of records in the system. That's pretty much just duplicates, right? They don't bring in new values. They're the same value for this type of space, for this floor. That's already predefined.
Well, this concludes the amount of time we have for this session. Please be sure to fill out the session surveys in the conference app, and let's hear it for our esteemed presenters.